Gun control remains in the spotlight a week after the Marjory Stoneman Douglas school shooting in Florida.
Tonight, a look at how the nation is responding. See It Live is up next.
The deadly high school shooting in Florida has ignited a countrywide debate over gun laws. Good evening. I'm Drew Jones.
And I'm Allegra Miller. President Trump says one way to increase school safety is to give teachers guns.
An attack has lasted, on average, about 3 minutes. It takes 5 to 8 minutes for responders, for the police to come in. So the attack is over. If you had a teacher who was adept at firearms, they could very well end the attack very quickly. And the good thing about a suggestion like that, and we're going to be looking at it very strongly, and I think a lot of people are going to be opposed to it. I think a lot of people are going to like it. But the good thing is that you'll have a lot of people with that.
Annenberg Media's Charlotte Scott has more on how LA students and teachers are responding to President Trump's proposal.
President Trump expanded on his idea today to arm teachers with guns, suggesting they be given bonuses if they are able to operate a weapon. A teacher with the United Teachers Los Angeles Union is against this proposed policy.
The notion of bringing guns on campus, fundamentally to students, it sends a message that the school is an unsafe place, but fundamentally it goes against why so many of us get into teaching to begin with. At some level, it says, I'm going to be ready to shoot a student or shoot a former student or a community member. That's not who we are. That's not what we get into teaching for. And there's no escaping that basic message. This is why teachers have a gut reaction that this is the wrong kind of direction to go.
The president's remarks today did not sit well with some local students. The high schoolers I spoke to said arming teachers is a bad idea, even though their school shares a campus with a middle school that had a shooting 3 weeks ago.
It's bad enough that we're having a bunch of school shootings around the country, and guns are having a bad reputation now, more bad than they did in the past. And so I think having teachers with guns is just going to add more fear to the school and to the students.
I think we should have only the police officers and just people in high authority should have weapons. People with less authority shouldn't really have weapons. If no one has weapons, then who's there to defend from?
You never know, if they can be psychopath, or if they have a bad day. What if a student's misbehaving bad and the teacher can threaten them with it?
Most faculty members shared a similar view. One college counselor describes giving teachers guns as horrible, sick, and dehumanizing. But a substitute teacher says he knows teachers that would be willing to have guns in their classroom to protect students.
Counselors, not guns. I come to schools and there will be 3 to 5 cop cars out in the front, and there's no college counselor. We need guidance, we need more teachers, we need more support. Many students, this is their refuge, and more guns does not mean safety.
I see no problem with having several armed teachers in a school. I don't think everyone would want to. I don't think everyone is capable of it. But I think in every school I've ever worked at, there's always a number of people who I know would be up for that kind of responsibility.
Many high school students here and across the country are taking a stand against gun violence.
That's right, Charlotte. Students are taking the fight for gun control into their own hands. Young activists around the country have organized school walkouts and marches demanding lawmakers act on gun control legislation. Students across the country participated in impromptu demonstrations yesterday. Thousands of students in Florida marched on the state's Capitol building to demand change on gun control policies. Activists say the fact that the students are telling their own story makes it powerful.
These kids are so ready. They lived through it. They are camera ready. They are technologically savvy. They are on it. And I just feel like this is a big shift in time. When you've lived through this and you have footage and you were there and you can tell the stories, that has a power that no other kind of activism can have.
The Women's March organization has called for a national school walkout on March 14th. The walkout will last 17 minutes in honor of the Parkland shooting's 17 victims. On March 24th, students will hold a march on Washington. Dozens of sister marches will also take place in other U.S. cities, including Los Angeles. A second school walkout is planned for April 20th. This date marks the 19th anniversary of the Columbine High School shooting. One USC student wants to begin a gun education club to provide reliable information and have intelligent debates among students. He spoke to us about why this is such an important time on the condition that his face not be shown.
The purpose I had in mind when thinking about starting the club actually came because I feel like there aren't enough outlets for people to talk about solutions. People like to voice their opinions on social media and go on rants, but realistically that does not do much to accomplish anything. I think starting a club that would open an intelligent dialogue on what can be done to stop the issue of mass shootings short term and also what can be done to stop it long term would be extremely useful for a campus like USC.
He believes that with so many students studying international relations and policy, this club could have a significant impact on present and future leaders.
Students are calling out politicians for accepting donations from the National Rifle Association. In fact, the NRA spends more on lobbying bills and making advertisements than they actually give to candidates. In 2016, the NRA made more than $360 million in membership dues, donations, and other revenues. More than half of their revenue goes to program expenses. They also spent nearly $52 million on the general election, and more money was spent on the ads against Democratic candidates than for Republican candidates. Today, NRA CEO and Executive Vice President Wayne LaPierre echoed President Trump's call for arming school teachers. He then bashed Democrats for hating the Second Amendment.
In every community in America, school districts, PTAs, teachers unions, local law enforcement, moms and dads, they all must come together to implement the very best strategy to harden their schools, including effective, trained, armed security that will absolutely protect every innocent child in this country.
LaPierre says the NRA will offer its support and guidance at no cost to any schools seeking protection. One major sporting goods chain in LA sells guns on a daily basis. Annenberg Media's Madeline Ottilie is live at one Big Five location in the Mid-City area where she just talked with some shoppers. Madeline?
We're just a few miles off campus outside of a Big Five sporting store, one of many sporting stores in the city that carries firearms. These include Dick's Sporting Goods as well as Walmart. Back in 2016, Bloomberg rated Walmart to be the largest supplier of firearms in the country. And while some frequent shoppers of this store said they aren't that surprised, other residents were shocked.
It's not really alarming. I mean, you still get the gun the same way you would get one at any other place that sold guns. It's a business, so somebody has to sell them, but I'd rather them sell them, legally than illegally.
Even though this is my first time here, or even though I did see it at sporting stores in upstate New York where hunting is sort of popular, every time I see it, it's surprising and upsetting. Well, I don't consider guns to be a sport. I understand that people have attachments to them or to the pastime of it or something like that, but they're so explicitly violent and dangerous.
At a store like this, you're still going to have to go through a 10-day waiting period in the state of California where background checks are conducted. But if you're of age, all that goes smoothly and you've got a proof of residence, it's not too hard to walk out of a store like this with a weapon. That's all we have, and we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Maddie. To buy a gun at stores like Big Five, prospective gun owners must first pass a federal background check. The review includes a look at an individual's criminal history, immigration status, and mental health. The information is run through an automated system at first, which only takes 30 seconds. If any disqualifying factors come up, the FBI has 3 business days to review a profile. If there's no word from the Bureau after 3 days, the transaction can be made. President Trump took to Twitter today with his thoughts on background checks and bump stocks. I will be strongly pushing comprehensive background checks with an emphasis on mental health, raise age to 21, and end the sale of bump stocks. Congress is in a mood to finally do something on the issue, I hope. A bump stock is a molded piece of plastic that fits on the end of a semi-automatic rifle. It replaces the weapon's standard stock, which rests on the shoulder. The device allows the gun to move freely back and forth and increases the gun's firing capacity. Last October, the NRA said it would support tighter restrictions on these devices.
The United States is home to the most mass shootings in the world. Gun ownership in the United States is rooted in the Second Amendment. Gun laws around the world are much more restrictive. In Australia, the National Agreement on Firearms prohibits all automatic and semi-automatic assault rifles. The government instituted a temporary gun buyback program after a mass shooting in 1996. Law also requires licensed gun owners to demonstrate a genuine need for a gun. In the UK, similar acts of violence prompted the government to also institute a temporary gun buyback program. The country also banned handguns in response. And in Japan, most guns are illegal. Owners are subject to a rigorous background check, and once they purchase, they are subject to routine inspection. You may have seen it on your social media feed. Gun owners are destroying their firearms as part of the so-called One Less movement. The goal of hashtag One Less is to have fewer guns in circulation and in the hands of a potential murderer. A video in which gun enthusiast Scott Papalardo saws his AR-15 in half went viral this week. Papalardo posted the video on his Facebook page with the hashtag OneLess. Hundreds of gun owners have followed Papalardo's example and destroyed their guns or returned them into the police. Gun owners' Twitter pics of their destroyed guns are trending with the hashtag OneLess. Atronic has tweeted, "We sensible gun owners need to be the Trojan horse of change. I can give a hobby to save a life." At Explode441 tweeted, "I can't live with the guilt of owning a weapon that caused so much hurt. I cut up my AR, now it's your turn."
Honestly, I hope this is the last time we have to do a story like this. I really, really hope the changes that everyone's talking about get made.
I definitely think that, politicians need to really think about gun control, gun rights, and kind of weigh the pros and cons.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching See It Live from everyone at Annenberg Media. I'm Drew Jones.
And I'm Allegra Miller. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.